that I talked about of, okay, well, like what's the difference between an image and a container, right? Well, the image is basically the software that you download, right? Like the zip files, and then the container is running, right? Running that software, okay? So Docker was really designed with that in mind, you know. So when you get into the processes reading, right, you can see the various processes running on my computer, obviously, right? Like Zoom, and this has a process ID that you can identify it with, and then you can, if you want to like shut down or kill that process. Camtasia, obviously, you can see is running iTerm, right? Each of these are different. I had to download each of these things separately, right? I had to download Zoom, I had to download Camtasia, I had to download iTerm. But the reason why it's like a process is it's these are the things that are currently running and that are now occupying or using some computer resources. Okay, so with Docker, it's that same. They designed it so that containers are supposed to feel like processes, meaning they're supposed to just be like these lightweight tasks that are being run. So, the image is the software that you download. So when I do Docker image ls, right? These are the different pieces of software, and then when you do Docker run Ghost, that wasn't beautiful, version 4.8.0, that will be essentially like the process that's being run. Okay, so like here you can see like we are kind of starting a process, and that process is basically to like boot up this web server. And you can start to see this right if we go to a new tab, and now I do Docker. You can do Docker PS, right? Which PS is the bash command for like list your processes, right? If I do PS here, right, it lists various processes. If I do Docker PS, then it lists the process running inside the Docker environment. Okay? In the same way that we saw like with top, there's like a process ID, there's also, like a container ID over here. Okay? So if we do, if you want to ever stop that process, or you want to stop that container, you can do Docker stop, and then the name of either the container ID, or you can use this container name that's just automatically generated for you, right? And then you see the return, and it stops it. Okay. One thing to like note is that Docker is basically set up to say like, hey, the whole point of me, booting up the container is to perform a task. So if you do, Docker run 4.8.0, what is that task? That task is to like boot up a server, right, a website, and that server then listens for requests. So the process stays running, like this process stays running. You can see it's up 9 seconds because this task is to keep listening for requests, right, for someone to visit the website and do etc. If, however, you then go and change the task, right, the goal that's occurring by saying like list the contents, right, you're not going to see a process listed here. Because the reason why is because what Docker did was it booted up a container just to list the contents here, and then that container immediately died, right, was disposed of. Once the task is like performed and accomplished, the container immediately goes away. There's no way to, I was going to say there's no way to change that, at least not by default, right? The way that, right, and then of course now we can get into a way to change that. So, one thing you could do is we can change this command to be like, let's see the bash shell. And you see, right, like this is kind of frustrating, right? We did run the bash command in the context of like this piece of software, but once it was accomplished, the container then died. So then what you can do is you can say like, okay, run this command and stay connected. And for that, you do this IT flag. This is like be interactive with both the inputs and the outputs. And now you can see the container did not just die because we're saying, hey, stay connected to it. All right, this by the way has like other kind of good pieces of information. This is the container. This is the image, right? Like the software that we're running. So it shows you how long ago. It shows you the port. This is the port in the container that things are set up to run, to occupy on, right? Port 2368. So like that's a good piece of information. But then I always like doing this, docker run -it ghost 4.8.0 bash, because now you can like dig around, and you can look at any of this setup here, okay? There is a way to also like connect VS Code to this as well, but I just haven't done it. But yeah, like this is pretty useful. Other things to show you. All right. I can do exit, right? Okay, there we go. Okay, so right now I don't have any containers running because I just disconnected from bash. So if I do docker ps or docker, right, the other way to see this is to do docker container ls. We don't see any containers running. If we boot up, another thing you may want to do is say like you want to boot up Ghost. So we'll just do docker run Ghost 4.8.0. And now you want to like, let me connect the port too, right? If I do docker run 4.8.0, I'm not going to be able to get to port 2368, right? I'm not going to see this in my host. So you all know this. What I need to do instead is to connect my host computer. So let's say like 9900 to 2368. It always goes host, sorry about that. It always goes host to the container. So it's like outside in. And now I should be able to go to, unless I'm using it, localhost 9900, right? And now here's Ghost. Now let's say you want to like dig around on this existing container, right? You cannot do docker run -it ghost bash, right? Even if you do I forget the name of it, 4.8.0, because this is going to boot up a new container, right? Like this is saying, hey, boot up this image and run bash, like run this bash command, and this would start a new container. Let's just see that. So now if I do docker ps, you see we have two containers running. One of them has this name, the other one has this name. They're both running the Ghost image. One of them is, mapping my port. This is so that I can access it. This one is not doing that and is just allowing me to like kind of sh in here, right? Dig around in here. If we want to instead, so if I exit out of this one, so I always do that. If I exit out of this one, now one of them is going to be gone. Okay, so now we're left with this guy, right? The one that we are seeing right here. So what if I want to, dig around, run the bash command against this existing container, right? This has nothing to do with an image, right? I don't need to boot up an image right now. I already have my, this is already Ghost, the Ghost image running as a container. Instead, what I can do is, take a look at the name, my concurrent containers, and say I want to run a command against this container. So for that, you use a different command. You do docker exec, right? And against this container, I can run like the ls command. So this is not starting a new container. It's running against this existing container. Same thing, I can do docker exec -it, right? Stay connected and run the bash command. And now you'll see, so now I can like dig around, see the contents, right? Kind of navigate inside of here. You can see what's involved. And also notice that if you look at the number of containers running, right, we still just have one container running. All right? So this is one container running. In one kind of command, we have map the ports, right? And we are running the website. And then we are also issuing the command to run bash and stay connected and dig around against the same container. Right? So there's two different ways. So like to do this second thing, to run issue a command against a running container, you have to, I always do this. you have to use this exec command. If you want to boot up a new container, then this is docker run, right? Docker exec is for issuing this command against this container, and docker run is for issuing a command against to boot up a container. And here you have to specify the image because you're starting something from scratch, starting a new container from scratch. We have to specify the image as like ghost 4.8.0. Right? You all get the difference? Yeah. Okay. I don't think I have too much for you else. Let me think about it. Yeah, I think that's basically it. Yeah, any questions about like the lab or anything like that? How did this feel to you so far? Okay, I'll take that as good things. All right. So I'll let you if you want. I'll let you.